But what was it like to actually get a film produced, directed, and finished, and now live, and people can see it and buy it and everything? Like, how hard was that? Was it easy? Or because in my mind, it wouldn't be.
Well, it's truly a sense of accomplishment for sure. Kevin Smith, we actually were in his film festival. He says something pretty profound while we were there in his film festival. He says, "You guys are like the 1% that actually put out a movie, whether it's good, it's bad, or whatever. You did it. You're here. You made it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you're displaying it and showing it at this film festival."
How far would you go to turn your passion into something bigger than yourself? Today, I sit down with Tom Rosy, filmmaker and storyteller of Behind the Bucket, a documentary that pulls back the curtain on the 501st Legion, the worldwide Star Wars costuming group that proves even the bad guys can do a lot of good. What started as a love for detailed screen-accurate cosplay turned into a global movement with stormtroopers, bounty hunters, Sith Lords, and even the rebel scum, dedicating themselves to charity work, hospital visits, and bringing joy to Star Wars fans of all ages. Tom's documentary captures the heart behind the armor, sharing powerful stories of members whose passion for Star Wars became a way to uplift and inspire others. From navigating the challenges of filmmaking to highlighting the impact of fandom, Tom's journey is proof that storytelling, whether through the film or through costume, has the power to connect and transform lives. Get ready for an episode filled with purpose and a whole lot of Star Wars magic as Tom Rosy shares how the 501st Legion is using fandom to make the galaxy a better place, here on Navigating No. Tom, thank you for coming on. This is my first night recording I've ever done for this podcast, so I appreciate, because we are in different time zones, and I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate your flexibility too. Yeah. It's coming straight from work, so this is great.
Well, I love it, because your job is a part of the reason that I actually met you. And you're a member of the 501st as an Imperial Stormtrooper is one of your things. You're a TK. But you and I met online first. And I was talking to a great friend of mine, Gregory Zarian, and he and I have never actually met, but we met online. Right. Yeah. And so it's like, he's the only person that I've never physically met, but I've actually met his brother, and I've worked with his brother. And it's actually because you and I actually met in Chicago after we had met online. And it was like, that was just kind of a neat little connection where you can meet people online and actually get to know them, through that platform, and then finally meet each other. And you were awesome when I met you in Chicago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Chicago is my hometown, so it was great to have Star Wars Celebration there in Chicago. The timing of it was perfect as well. And yeah, to finally meet you was great. I mean, we have this relationship with, at least I do in my world of Star Wars, where you get to see people online from all over the world, and you can make these connections here and there. And then when you finally meet them at these conventions, which is, usually what happens, it's really cool to connect like that.
Yeah, like a real meeting, I guess. But it's just neat that you can make those kinds of connections and then actually meet in person. And so you were super cool when I met you, and you're there actually filming a documentary that you did about the 501st, and then also what the history is and what the story behind the 501st is, and what they do, right? Because they're bad guys doing good. And that's a big part of you. And I thought that having you on would be awesome, because you did your own documentary movie. And a lot of people aspire to do that, but you actually have a movie. It has an IMDb of a high score, and it's like, people aspire to that. And so I think your journey on that is so fantastic, because I know you've hit challenges and setbacks and what's going to happen. And I just love to hear that story. And I think that the audience would love it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about timing and Star Wars Celebration coming into Chicago in 2019, this is about the time where we started to film. The idea actually came from the fact that my garrison, the Midwest Garrison, was turning 20 years old. And we are one of the longest running garrisons, out there. So I had some previous filming experiences with, working as an extra, being on a few independent film projects. And during that time, I had met a lot of crew members and who now became friends.
Hmm.
Mike Dierman being the co-producer on this documentary Behind the Bucket, and also working with him, we just became fast friends. We're both nerdy people, and we continue to, kind of like meet up at different places like C2E2, which is a local comic book convention here in Chicago. And during that convention, we have an after hours party where, you end up in the hotel lobby, you have a few drinks, you're hanging out with
Sure.
cosplayers and members of the 501st. And it's just a all around great atmosphere. And, coming off a con, you're pumped about, what you did and who you met, or, the toy you just bought or whatever.
Yeah.
So, we're having a few beers and we're talking about, we should put a documentary together about the 501st. Now, this is not the first documentary about the 501st, so we can't claim to be that. But, we wanted to approach it in a way that was just really a PSA to people.
Hmm.
So I didn't really have a major plan, and neither did Mike. The name for Behind the Bucket, which is right here, came actually that night by me, just to catch everyone up and give everyone an idea of what the
Right.
title
Because a
comes
lot of
from.
people don't know what the 501st is or what a bucket head is. Right.
Yeah, so a bucket is referred to as the helmet, and you see this reference quite a few times in the Star Wars animated series, and even the live action. So behind the bucket is representative of the people behind the bucket, the people in the bucket, and we wanted to make a documentary about these people, which I'm also a member of, but just let them know that you don't really need to know anything about Star Wars to understand that what these people are doing is they're taking their fandom
Hmm.
and they're giving back to the communities in ways that help raise money, help support needs for all kinds of things. And as an individual member of the 501st, you can become an event coordinator where you can have a passion for something like, let's say, animal cruelty, and you could reach out to your local shelter and say, hey, what can I do to help raise money for and maybe an existing event, or maybe something I can do for you that we can collaborate with. And
Hmm.
sometimes just the presence of the 501st there helps people to raise money directly and indirectly. And, it's just a draw sometimes as well. So you get photo ops as well with these events.
Well, yeah, who doesn't get giddy around one stormtrooper, let alone 15 or 30 of them, right? And that was my emotional attachment. Even at 47 years old, I see Darth Vader or a troop of stormtroopers, I still get giddy, right? Like I still think I'm like this little kid. And so that's something that you bring to, let's say, hospitals with cancer patients and kids and different fundraisers. And for people who don't understand that, the five, or mainly it's more than cosplay, because cosplay is just, I just dress up as a stormtrooper that I buy from Target, some thing. But this is legit Lucasfilm licensed replicas of the actual armor on all different kinds of characters. It doesn't just have to be a stormtrooper. It could be anybody as a member of the 501st. And it's like, you guys are out doing good and you're fundraising. And it's like, when people see you, whether for the audience to understand, if you go to a Major League Baseball game and it's Star Wars night, the people that are there dressed up as the Star Wars characters are the members of the 501st usually. And when you see them come to the parade, it's like, those are the members of the 501st. So it's not only does it get people excited in the audience, but it really can connect with whoever you're visiting. And I know that you do that, and you document that in your film.
Yeah. One thing I do want to correct you on is that it's not licensed through Lucasfilm, but they tolerate what we do. The costumes are screen accurate, and that's the part of the appeal of what the 501st does, because these characters, look like they stepped off the movie. I mean, they could absolutely be licensed. In fact, in The Mandalorian, in one of the episodes, they went to the 501st because they have screen accurate costumes, and they used them in one of the episodes. So, in a sense, we work hand in hand with Lucasfilms. They see the good that the 501st does worldwide. And, the 501st is a worldwide organization that anyone could be involved in. Garrisons are what would refer to your specific, club in your state. And sometimes you even have multiple garrisons in a larger state. We're very fortunate in the US to have a garrison in every state, but you can have a garrison in Italy, and you can have a garrison in Mexico. And so there's a bond also that happens with that, right? You can reach out to someone, and just like we talked about an online presence and talking to people. I may not have, everything in common with you, but we have the umbrella of loving Star Wars, and we fall under that umbrella. And that, I could go anywhere in the world and reach out to a local garrison and know that I at least have that, So that's a sense of community and camaraderie that you get also in the club.
Well, not only that, but you embrace it. Like, you're embraced. You feel like you're valued within that community, because you mentioned that. And but it doesn't just have to be a Star Wars thing that people can connect around. It's like, you could be anything from anime to swordplay or Dungeons and Dragons, or even a Toastmasters group. They're all the same all over the world, even though you could go and visit them and you're going to get basically the same thing. And you have that one connection, at least, with people.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's part of the appeal. And, as a member, you have all kinds of events that come up all the time. And, the charity aspect of it is not something necessarily that you have to do, but many people are drawn to that because they love giving back in ways that, they can use their fandom to do so. There's an event that we cover in the documentary called Bugs Pals. And through that, the father who lost his daughter, I became friends with, after not only being part of his event, but also getting to know him, and also even relating to him to an extent about what it is to be in a hospital with your children, because that is something I also touch on in the documentary, which is something personal to me as well, because I have a special needs daughter. And, it's just way of connecting with people through this fandom that it really draws people to these clubs, I think. And I think they can become more than you think they are when you first initially join. And, that's the fun of it.
Well, and what you're doing for people, that you're like kids, for example, like when you see them, you just bring out this, you make them forget, right? And it's like an escape, and you give them some kind of relief mentally and physically, because who doesn't love? I mean, in your documentary, one of the people wanted to see Darth Vader, right? And it's like, that's the most evil villain of all. And I want to see that, right? And so I was always drawn to the dark side as well. But it's interesting, like, because you do take people away from their pain. And I think that's one of the greatest things about the 501st. Like, whenever you see them, you forget everything. It's like a really good book. You dive in deep, and all of a sudden it's, oh, wow. But when a batch of people come around, they're dressed up as the characters, it's like, you think that you're in the movie too. And it really gives somebody that escape, or that feeling of being in the film.
Yeah. Well, referring back to the hospitals, the parents get excited too. It's, they're not only excited for their kids, but they're also excited to see, stormtroopers or whoever characters come walking through. And it's not only just the 501st, but the Rebel Legion as well. We do a lot with them. R2-D2 Bitter Clubs as well, where you can have a life-size R2-D2 rolling into the hospital room, And so, this is it becomes this like hodgepodge of all these characters and kind of ways to like expand, something that you may be seen as a child. I'm only speaking from my generation. We're the same age, 1977.
Great year.
You're right. So, we're relating to these characters that we grew up with, but people have all kinds of entry points of why they love Star Wars. Some people love Star Wars for the prequels. Some people love Star Wars for the gaming and the books and whatever. So, whatever draws them is great. I mean, the franchise is ever expanding, And
it draws in different fans in different ways. My cousin, for example, knew I loved Star Wars, and she was not into it. And then she meets her future husband, and all of a sudden she's this great Star Wars fan. I'm like, where were you when I was always talking about it, right? And but something clicked with her that really hit home, and she just loves it. And she's going to go to Japan for Star Wars Celebration in Tokyo. So it's like, it means something different from everybody, and everybody has a different point. Did you always want to be a stormtrooper? Did you
Well,
aspire to be a stormtrooper?
I didn't even know that was an option. I mean, so my story is kind of where it started was, obviously I grew up in 77. So I had Star Wars in my life since I've been born. I remember very specifically playing with my action figures and even separating them by the movie that I saw them in.
Mm-hmm.
But also just, my dad took me to conventions when I was very young and,
Mm-hmm.
comic book conventions and on a scale that they're not even really at right now. But I remember seeing stormtroopers walk past me and going, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how do I join? You're like, well, how do these people make this and where do they get it from? I didn't know like where to even start.
Mm-hmm.
I was already thinking about it and I was, kind of associating myself with the 501st at their booths when I go to these conventions because they always have a booth set up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great thing. If you do make it to these conventions, head over to the 501st booth, talk to them. They'll be more than happy to help you out.
Oh, and they're so amiable. And
Yeah.
they'll answer any of your questions. And they'll talk to you about the armor and like what the production, what the costs are. I think it's really cool. People ask me, they're like, well, do you dress up? I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I just wear a Star Wars shirt. That's as far as I go. But if I was, I would be a biker scout. I think I'd be a scout trooper.
Well, you'd be able to sit down, so that would be great,
I love it.
I
You
mean,
kind of got to do some waddle.
man, it's like you have, they call them armor bites. It's where the two pieces of armor meet and your skin likes to pinch in between there.
What's the hardest uniform that you know of or that you've worn that was difficult?
Well, to date it's a deep dive. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna say a name and I'm gonna give you mad props if you know who this is. And you might, because you follow me on Instagram, but Jackson. He's a space rabbit. So
Jackson he was actually at Chicago at Anaheim.
Yes. Yeah. In Anaheim, yes, I was in Jackson and people lost their stinking mind. I couldn't take a few steps without people asking for a picture. I also got a lot of Bucky O'Hares, but
yeah,
I could understand that.
So
But Jackson is very unique because the head goes on like a Wookiee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's I'm in there, and then the armor comes on like a clamshell, so I'm locked in, and I have very minimal viewing, ability to see out of this thing. So, I've been able to kind of like feel my way around. I mean, a Tusken Raider is pretty crazy too, because you're literally looking through little holes like that.
It's that bad.
Yeah, it could be really bad. But I mean, there's some costumes that are just heavy, or I mean, I've worn my Stormtrooper costume at the Thanksgiving Day parade in Chicago. And I mean, you're just talking about like Under Armour and plastic in the middle of winter.
Cold.
You know what I'm saying? So it's cold, and you better make sure you pee before you go, because that's a long parade. And it's just, there's another one we have here called it's a Bartlett parade in Bartlett, Illinois, and it is so hot. They call it the March of Death. I mean, we're just you're not wanting to pull your helmet off, but you're dumping water down your helmet or any orifices you got in any of the costumes, and it's pretty crazy. I couldn't wear Jackson there. That's too warm.
Oh my gosh. Do you have kids coming up behind you? Because obviously your peripheral vision is different, but it's like, how awesome is it to have a kid vision just want a picture or a hug? Or how often do kids come up and hug your leg and you didn't even realize it until the kid is hugging you?
Oh yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. I've had little girls grab my little pinky, and I had this one girl just during this other event, Julie at Star Wars Day, which is in the documentary, just hold on to me and just wouldn't leave me. It kept coming back to me. It was incredible. And I mean, depending on the costume you're in, if you're a Wookiee, you're getting a lot of hugs. You're definitely getting a lot. Weird thing about that is, funny little experience I had, is the only one time I'd ever put a Wookiee on. You're on stilts, so you're higher. So people come around and they hug you, but what they're really doing is they're kind of grabbing your butt. So you just have to, you have to roll with the punches. These types of things, But yeah, there's a lot of costumes that can be uncomfortable, and you just do it because you're living out your dream, or
I love that.
You're just excited about,
and you're having fun. Is it passion? You mentioned the documentary, and I do want to hit on that, but something that stood out to me was in it, one of the stormtroopers walked the girl to surgery. and the only way she would go was with a stormtrooper. And I was like, that was so emotionally a hard hit for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like how awesome is that the
Yeah.
kid feels so safe only around a stormtrooper, you know? And it's just like, that's got to be that feeling. Do you get that rush? Is that what makes you put on the suit that bites your knees caps all the time? Is that the draw?
Well, funny story about that. That's Eric Warner. He's a member of the Midwest Garrison, and I believe Ted Ruler, who's also Darth Maul in the documentary, took a picture of them, and we highlight it in the documentary, and it's him holding her hand with the I believe I'm very sorry, I forget the cancer center or the name of the hospital that they were in at the moment, but that picture has spread worldwide.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's become a staple of what the 501st is. And yeah, I mean, he'll never forget that. I mean, he talks about it briefly in the documentary as well. And it's just these are moments where you can't help but get teary-eyed or get choked up and just really feel emotionally connected with some of these kids, especially the ones in the hospitals. And there's some of those kids that are very lethargic or they did unresponsive, and they just you don't know what they're thinking, but you hope you're
lighting them lighting them up, right? You are, and you can see that the smiles. My daughter thought that she knew Darth Vader and she knew all the stormtroopers and Boba Fett because my friends who were in the 501st on the west side in the Garrison Titan, they would deliver mail. They would come and say hi. They'd FaceTime her, right? And any Mariners game we went to, they'd say, hi, Hayden. And she was like, hi, guys, because they knew her name. And it wasn't until we went to Disneyland when the Darth Vader didn't know my daughter. And she's like, hey, what's going on here? And then it doesn't help that I know Ray Park, and he called and he left a message for my daughter. And he's like, oh, your dad's cool, and this, that. And she's like, why does he not have the horns? And that was her like first big hit where she was like, maybe they're not real. So, but I mean, it's like this magic, and it's like Santa Claus. You give this excitement to the kids and you make adults giddy. And I just think it's so special. And you rocked the house with your documentary, by the way, because it was emotional, and you did a great job, and it came out and I loved it. And I would definitely lead people towards that. But what was it like to actually get a film produced, directed, and finished, and now live, and people can see it and buy it and everything? Like, how hard was that? Was it easy? Or because in my mind, it wouldn't be.
Well, it's truly a sense of accomplishment for sure. I mean, I have ADD. I guess who doesn't these days? But seeing tasks through and understanding like the scale of putting a movie together, well, first of all, it's a team effort. So it's not just me or anyone on the crew, but you have to just keep at it. It's Kevin Smith. We actually were in his film festival. If you don't know who Kevin Smith is, he's done movies like Clerks and Mallrats and everything like that. And he says something pretty profound while we were there in his film festival. He says, you guys are like the 1% that actually put out a movie, whether it's good, it's bad, or whatever. You did it. You're here. You made it. Okay. And you're displaying it and showing it at this film festival. So, I mean, it really sunk in at that point. When we started this, it became a conversation after a convention, like I mentioned earlier. And then it became, okay, I think it was only like less than a month, or not even that, maybe a couple of weeks, we started filming. So we gathered a few people together. We went down, we started shooting. We went to conventions. We interviewed whoever we could. We went to all the events. Star Wars Celebration came through, which was great, and all these things started falling in place. But we also had a lot of challenges as well, like COVID, for example. Our movie was slotted to come out before COVID happened, and as a result, we had to push everything back. Now, that was also a blessing in disguise because we were also able to rework on things and maybe film a few things, and then animations got put in, and all these little tweaks. And it was a blessing in disguise. And with a documentary,
did you know that at the moment, or was that like, oh man, we failed? Oh, this is horrible. Like, How did you make it through that? Was Mike your co-director? Was Mike like, oh, tell me about that feeling. How was that?
Well, we were slotted to play the movie at a minor league baseball field. And we
Uh-huh.
were going to have it on the jumbo screen, and we were going to sit in the field, and it was going to be awesome. I was like pumped about this. And I even had a few people lined up that we were going to interview beforehand. And oh my God, it was just, COVID happened and the world shut down. And I was, at least, I can only speak for myself, but Mike, of course, upset a little bit as well, but we saw the opportunity in it. But yeah, I mean, there's this internal fire inside you that frustrates you,
Mm-hmm.
even I would even say one of the other frustrations I had was and this is all your perspective, right? We had a screening at C2E2, which is kind of full circle when you think we filmed a lot of it here.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us like a press pass, to do a lot of this. We had opportunities to meet celebrities and walk around with a camera. We had a panel which we were able to talk to the audience about the movie at C2E2
Yeah.
at a comic book convention. I mean, how cool is that? There wasn't maybe as many people there as I would like to have seen there, but that kind of ate me up a little bit too. But then Mike was a great reminder to me about, dude, we had a screening and a panel at a comic book convention. How
Yeah.
cool is that?
A
How many people
huge
can see
comic
that?
book convention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all these like blessings, right? That you just have to think about, because
Appreciate.
yeah, and you have to appreciate. And a documentary is not scripted. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't. You should be ready to go with the flow. And because of that attitude we had with going with the flow, we've captured so many things that we did not expect.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give anything away, but there's a lot of things.
The Titanic goes down. The Titanic goes down at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I don't want to ruin the ending.
Yeah, right. So yeah, you just have to understand that you can have a vision. It may not work out exactly how you wanted it to, but if you keep at it, you're going to put out a good product. And I mean, I think we made a good movie. I think you don't need to know anything about Star Wars to watch this movie. You just need to know that there's a movie that exists called Star Wars, and there's a people and a passion for it, and there's people that use that passion to give back to their communities, and that's really what the story is about, anyways. So a lot of opportunities that came through, a lot of collisions that we had in our original vision.
Well, I think that you did make a great movie, and you did very well, and you hit a lot of emotional points, and you brought attention to the 501st and your love for Star Wars and your love for giving back to the communities. But then you also mentioned that it's like, I think it was Mike Tyson says that everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And you could have this vision, but you're going to run into all of these setbacks and all these challenges and money problems. And it's like, as long as you kept moving forward and you had a confidence team, because you had your director, Mike, next to you. And I also love that you mentioned Kevin had said that you're already in the 1%. Like, you finished something. And be appreciative of that. But it's like, you're already above and beyond what most people would do. Because people will talk about making a movie all the time. Oh, I'll take my iPhone and I'll make a movie or whatever. And it's like, but you never really do it because you talk about it. But it's like, for you to actually do the hard work required was amazing. How long did it take you to film, like, everything? What was the process like? How hard was it? Or how long did it take?
Well, I mean, we shot over 5 terabytes of film. So that's a lot. Yeah. Every single image or footage that you see is shot by us. There's no stock footage. And then taking that,
editing it
and finding the story. And then also along with that, you maybe start talking to someone, right? And then they start referencing something. And now you're like, okay, we need footage of that. Or we need a picture of that, or, we need B-roll or something like along those lines. So, you're constantly kind of like going back and forth, playing this dance, between, things that you want to film or things that you should be filming because to help tell the story and
Yeah.
move the story along. So that's really interesting. But we started filming in, I believe, 2019. And like I said, we were slotted to come out with a version, which, that's the other thing too. We had screening set up and those were only versions. We were going to, change things around. I mean, the movie in his first edit, I believe, was over 2 hours long. So, you have to pick and choose to
Yeah.
what do you put out. I mean, we did so many interviews with members as well that one of the things that we noticed is that a lot of members said the same thing over and over again, which shows a great sense of unity in what they believe and how they feel about the Garrison or what they're saying, but it doesn't make really good, film, right? So you have to pick and choose between conversations that you're having and interviews that you're having, and then go with the storyline that's going to best
Move the
describe
audience along. Yeah.
Yeah, and move the audience
along. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard because you got to cut things and you don't want to, but you're interviewing people that you want to give them more time to, and I'll give you a funny example. Darth Maul in the movie, who's Ted Ruler, I mentioned his name once again. He's in the movie quite a bit. We do a sequence with him getting ready as Darth Maul. He's at every convention, so it's like you can't help but film him all the time. You know what I'm saying? We actually had to cut some of the stuff out with him because he's at everything, and he's a true like whatever you want to call him, just a true trooper. He's out there, he's doing these events, he's helping people out with their events if no one's showing up for that, and that's a thing. To have guys like Ted, and I'm glad we got to highlight him and what he does, and his time with Ray Park, as you mentioned, because he's in the movie as well. Ray was great, and all the other celebrities that we met were great. And
was it hard to ask celebs to come in and interview, or was that pretty easy with a media pass?
Well, I think with a media pass, it makes things easier, and then walking around with a camera kind of gives you permission to do certain things too.
Sure.
Like people just kind of like, oh, okay, you seem legit.
Yeah. Were most people willing to give you a few minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, those who aren't, and that's fine. That's fine too. But like specifically, Ray Park and Ted Ruler kind of have a friendship because of the extent of what
his love for
Ted
Maul
does with his Darth Maul. I mean,
sure.
He's probably one of the best Darth Mauls as far as looking almost exactly like Ray Park from the original prequels. And, Ray knows Ted very well. So it was just a matter of Ted saying, hey, we're going to be out in Wisconsin to see you at your signing. We wanted to get him at Celebration, but there was no way to get him because if you know anything about Ray Park, he will spend time with you while you come up and talk to him, and he'll engage with the crowd, and that's great when it's your time, but you're waiting a long time to see him. And get him after that is hard. So Wisconsin was a smaller convention, and we were able to film him. And we hung out with him for 3 days, so it was great to be able to meet him and talk to him. And we talked about our families, and we talked about his beginnings and all that kind of stuff. So Ray was awesome. And every other
and he is so giving with his time, and he's such a good guy, and it's so funny that he's a bad guy in the movies, right? And I think that was one of his dilemmas. I don't want to be the bad guy, but he's really good at it. But he's so giving with his time, and he does spend that extra. He goes above and beyond. He goes above and beyond when he's with the fans, and he's just somebody great to know. So for sure, that's a good plug for him. What did you self-fund everything, or did you guys crowdfund? What did you do?
No, none of that. This was a zero budget movie. That it was all time volunteers. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that.
It's kind of poetic because that's exactly what the 501st does too. They don't charge to go to any of the events. If anything, they help raise money for your event. But yeah, this was just bare bones, us getting out there with a camera, grabbing B-roll, grabbing footage. There was no income. We had no idea where it was going to end up. We thought maybe YouTube. We'll just post it on YouTube. We didn't expect it to be a full feature film. But as it progressed and as these stories started to come out about, the people that we highlight, you realize you got something special here. And I think the movie speaks to not only our Garrison here in Illinois, but it highlights all Garrisons, right? I mean, it's interchangeable in the way that people feel and the reasons why they do what they do. And it's really just to promote what the 501st does and help people understand that these are just, as one of the expressions is in the movie, adults playing spaceman, there's,
right. There's more to it behind the bucket.
Exactly. And cosplay is the term for, what essentially is going on, but really, which I didn't coin, is cosplay, because it's being done for a cause a lot of times.
100%.
Yeah. And so, that's the heart of the movie, I think, is when you start to break it down, you just realize that these are people from all different walks of life. I mean, you go through any garrison and you got doctors and police officers and garbage men and whatever, who knows, so once again, you're just under that umbrella of people loving Star Wars and people just wanting to dress up and have this community.
And I'm the opposite. I'm not the opposite, but I'm a Star Wars lover. And it's like what you provide to the spectator is an emotional high for me. Like you bring back so many emotions to my childhood, whether that is toy collecting, like my AT-AT here. And it's like my mom got me that when I had my first dental surgery, and that means so much to me. It's a toy, right? Like it's a silly toy. But when I see Darth Vader, it's the same thing. When I watch, what's your favorite movie? Really quick, what's your favorite episode?
As far as the top
Star
3
Wars
movies, Star Wars,
anyone,
Empire.
I love you so much because we're going to be on. We can still be friends. I love that. Okay, and then would you do this again? Would you go through the whole process of making another movie, whether this is that, or what did you learn from actually finishing a movie and seeing it through, even though you had ADD and that task was like, oh, but you stayed course, you actually finished a project. Would you do it again? Was it worth it?
Absolutely. And I'm already working on something else right now. So that's the thing. Now we're trying to do this a little differently. We're trying to get some money behind this one. And I think with Behind the Bucket, we now have something to point to and show them, okay, this is what we're capable of with a zero budget, guerrilla style filming. Sit down interviews is great, but throw us a little money and then maybe we can do a little something better.
Sure.
We have some ideas. We already started filming. I love this process and I learned so much. I feel still a little weird calling myself a filmmaker, but I guess I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
you're that 1%.
I love the process. And even though, like we mentioned ADD and my own struggles, whatever, but I think what I found that I love the most is I love the producer aspect side of it, because I love making connections. I like chasing down leads. I like setting up the interviews, even the questions for interviews. Let's say on day one filming, I guess we didn't really think about this. We were like, who's going to ask the questions? And Mike's not going to ask the questions because he's filming. So they looked at me and I'm like, what, me? Oh, I didn't even expect that. I didn't expect to be the POV of this movie, but it was Mike and our editor, Dave, as well, that were like, we need someone to navigate us through this.
Oh my gosh.
You need to narrate it. You need to be the POV. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I didn't want to highlight myself in any way. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted it to be about the people, but they made a point and it is what it is. And my God, I learned so much. I mean, I'm an artist as well. I mean, I've always drawn or painted. And that's even why I really got into costuming, is because it's another medium, right? Building stuff and props and stuff. So filmmaking is just it's like this team effort, right? You're working with talented people and you're working to create something together that's not necessarily yours 100%, but like you're bringing a vision together, and that is something I really loved and something I'm like itching to do more of now often. And actually, this next couple of weekends, we're going to start filming some more footage for this project I'm working on. I don't know if you want me to tell you what it's called, but
Sure.
what it's about. But basically, it's a great way to. We really love the 501st, and I love costuming. But we mentioned a few other costuming groups, right? So I want to kind of highlight them as well.
The Rebels and the R2 units.
That.
Yeah.
I'm talking furries. I'm talking reenactments. I'm talking the whole shebang.
You made my day. That is awesome, Tom.
So,
oh my gosh.
I want to be very clear because this is something I even come across while talking to a few furries. We're not here to insult or make fun of any of these groups. I want to highlight them. And this is why our project is called Finding My Tribe.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So we want to encourage people, just like we did with the 501st. We know that the type of camaraderie. We want to encourage people that have different interests into finding these groups that they might like. So what makes a Star Wars fan versus a Star Trek fan, right? Now, I would argue just a little bit that there has maybe something to do with personality and upbringing and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I want to delve into that.
Yeah.
I've gotten psychologists involved, and I've gotten we would call them probably experts in their fields of different things. So I want this to be historic and also just a little bit understanding of what motivates people to do these things, right?
And define their tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that it's like so I'm off to Tokyo and I'm going to present Dark Side for Life, why the bad guys are just way cooler than the good guys. And it is about connecting with the audience and providing that, like, they're all there for something, for an experience. And to be able to connect everybody, and the cons, not only a celebration, but just the cons itself. When I look out in the audience and I see anime people and furries and things, it's like everybody feels safe and like they belong and they feel valuable and included. And that feeling is one of the reasons that I gave Dark Side for Life first here at Lilac City Comic Con here in Spokane. And it was in front of so many people. And I was terrified of answering Q&A because the audience members would know way more than I do about Star Wars. Everybody. And everybody was coming together because they felt like they belonged. And there's a reason for that. And I think that that's a really great emotional point that you're trying to find. And I love that. I think that's a great topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the conventions are a place where you can find your tribes, right? And let your freak fly, let you become a safe place. And, it's something that has expanded into all these different worlds, right? All these different fandoms. And I want people to be encouraged to explore these types of things. I remember my son at a very young age, we were, at a convention, you're driving in kind of early, right? I mean, at least for the ones I go to. So we're up early in the morning, we're driving, and there's very few people on the road, but there's quite a few, and we're taking expressway. And my son turns to me, and he's still very young at this point. He goes, I feel sorry for all these other people. They have to go to work or wherever they're going because we're going somewhere so cool. We're going to have so much fun. And I'm just like, yeah, we are, aren't we? And he was pumped, he was pumped about spending an entire weekend surrounded by, not only amazing costumes, but amazing people and toys and all these fandoms that people love, so it's become a family affair,
What a great connection to have, right? And it's like, and the reason I love Star Wars is somewhere in between A and B. My parents let me watch the first one. I went and saw Jedi, I think 15 times in the theater. I loved Empire, saw that several times in the theater. And or somebody bought me a toy, and it's they gave me that love, right? And that magic that occurred, and it sounded like that is one of the special things that you're able to do with your family, and then the new connections that you're making for the 501st. But as the documentary that you did, it sounded to me like you had a vision, you didn't expect it to go a certain way sometimes, but at the same time, you rolled with it and you figured it out. You figured out how to make it through, and eventually you ended up with a full feature film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And no one's going to know what didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? No one's gonna know, I wanted this, but that didn't happen. You know, they're gonna,
except you. You're the only one that knows what didn't hit or not. And it's same when I'm speaking on stage. Everyone who listens to a 45-minute keynote from me, if I miss one thing, they don't know. I do, but I can't let that keep me down. Oh, I dwell on it. They didn't know. They're all wanting me to succeed.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're rooting for me. And everyone who watches your film, they're rooting for you because you made a difference and you brought something to light and you brought up this emotional connection that Star Wars did with so many people. Right. And so I congratulate you, Tom. Seriously. Where can people find out more about you and about Behind the Bucket? Like, where can they see it? Where can they buy it?
Yeah. Well, of course, all the normal, you know, what you want to call it, social media. So we have Instagram, which is Behind the Bucket, doc, Facebook, which is just Behind the Bucket. But you also can go to our website, which brings you links to all of these things, the trailer, any kind of swag we might have be going on, our IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, all that kind of stuff. So that's www.behindthebucket.com. And then, you know, if you want to check it out, right now, I think we're streaming on Tubi. We were on Amazon Prime as well. Actually, we were just rated #1 independent documentary on Amazon when it first came out. You can also purchase it because everybody that loves Star Wars wants the physical copy, right? You want to collect things.
Right.
So, you know, you want a copy, and that can be found on Amazon as well, Amazon.com, Target.com, Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and through our distributor as well. So otherwise, we are currently working on international distribution as well. As we highlighted, there's 501st members and Star Wars fans all over the world. So we hear you. We've been getting messages. I can't see it on this. I can't see it on that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we're working on that. And if there's anybody listening that wants to help us out with that, please send me a DM, let me know. And
well, and you're really good about that. You reach out and you're very open as well. And you reply to people when they ask you questions, and you've always done that with me too, which is that's
coming from me or Mike or whoever, but mostly me. I mean, I've done a promotional thing where I was literally sending out every patch and every sticker, you know, to everyone. And it became a little overwhelming. I'll be honest with you, but it's better to have a service to do those kinds of things. But I was writing personal notes and everything just to get it going. Not to keep it dragging on too long, but I did learn a lot with that as well. Setting up promotions and trying not to do it too early. So, you know, because of COVID, things lapsed for a little while, and it kind of maybe some of the fire burned down a little bit. So. I mean, the next challenge right now, if we want to get into challenges, is just getting people eyes on it, right? And and talking to people like you and just letting people know that it's out there. It came out this October, so it's been doing pretty well. We always wanted to do better, so you know, this is just what we're doing right now.
Well, you did an awesome job. You did an awesome job, and I loved the film, and I would definitely 5-point or 5-star it. And share the word for that. And I look forward to your next documentary for sure. Because I'm going to Japan with the 501st, and I want to include the Japanese garrison and maybe some American garrisons. If you were going to go over to the Star Wars celebration, what's the one thing that you would want to see there? What would you most be looking forward to at the Japan celebration as a member of the 501st?
Yeah. I, I I came this close to wanting to go into Japan for Celebration. I think if
Just to hear me?
no, no. Well, yeah, of course I would love to see that. But I tell you
Yes,
one thing,
I
if I
love
go to
that. I
Japan,
give myself a
I'm
handshake on
gonna
that
spend
one.
some time in Japan and maybe a few lesser days at Celebration. But a Celebration is always a great time. And the one thing I would want to see in Japan is just how the culture there has
Mhm.
embraced Star Wars. You know, obviously George Lucas has drawn his inspiration from many different sources. Kurosawa is one of them as well, and you know he's used that culture as well in a lot of tropes in his movies. So that's
Absolutely.
why,
Hidden Fortress.
yeah, exactly. So that's why I think a lot of his movies are very speak to a lot of people in a lot of different cultures as well, because you have that common message and character arcs, you know, that you see in a lot of great films. So I would just love to see how Japan really does it up, you know, for Star Wars Celebration and meet the people. I mean,
Oh, I am so excited not only to
that's the greatest
present
thing.
Dark Side for Life, but also just to get around, meet everybody, see who's
Yeah,
there, see the artwork, the comic. If no one has ever been to a Comic-Con or a Star Wars Celebration, it really is something that you should do. I mean, and I bring my kids. The whole family's going, but even our local Lilac City Comic-Con is just such a great experience. Most people never go, and it's so fun for the nostalgia, the reminiscing, the connections that you can make, the toys. It's such a great day or
yeah,
weekend. And it's so amazing. And for you guys to dress up and bring out emotions and bring out all of these feelings of people and to be able to give them a little bit of magic, I think is phenomenal. And I commend you 100%. I commend you for finishing your film because it's a great one. And I would definitely advise everybody to see that and to learn a little bit more about the 501st, because they are bad guys doing good. But man, it is the message and the mission that everybody's there for, and the history is you're making a difference in this world. And you need to pat yourself on the back on that one, Tom.
thank you. Well, I hope everyone enjoys it that does watch it, and I thank you for highlighting it and having me on as well. And you know, I hope you have a blast out there, because it's going to be amazing. It's going to be, as always is. It's going to be amazing out in Japan.
Well, I'm sure I'll run into another celebration for sure, if not beforehand. So
Yeah,
thank you for being a part of this today. And I wish you the best luck, Tom. And I wish that more eyes get on it. And I will do my part, because people should see this film and just learn a little history about it. So thank you for sharing your message and some of the heartache that you've gone through for producing a film.
thank you very much. I appreciate it again.
Well, Tom, awesome, man. Best of luck to you, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much for listening to Navigating No. If this episode brings you value, or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.